It's time again for Northwestern Outdoors Radio, the show covering fishing, hunting, and all sorts of outdoor recreation and destinations right here in the region you live and play in. Northwestern Outdoors is brought to you every week by Max Lure Company, makers of the world-famous wedding ring spinner, by Loophole, America's Optics Authority, and by Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter. Northwestern Outdoors is also sponsored by Wallowa County in Northeast Oregon, where you'll find both nature and fun. By Chad's Coastwide Sports Fishing, offering you the affordable Canadian fishing trip of a lifetime. And by Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors. So grab your fishing rod or hunting gear, load up the boat or lace up your boots, and let's head outdoors with your host, John Cruz.
We are taking you to a real special place this weekend. It's Lake County, Oregon, a rural area in the south central portion of the Beaver State. It's affectionately called the Oregon Outback, and it's a beautiful place to explore. There's not many people, but there's a lot of wildlife in this environment of forests and high desert that also includes large lakes and wetlands that, depending on the time of year, may be more dry than wet. The towns we visited all had populations of 250 people or less. I started at Silver Lake, where the store owner there directed me to Duncan Reservoir. About 10 miles from town is a good place to go fishing. I had the whole lake to myself, caught some nice rainbow trout, and got to camp under a brilliant canopy of stars at this high desert reservoir, the only sounds being the calls of geese and willets on the lake as day turned into night. The next morning, I went to Paisley and explored the Shiwakan River, searching for red band rainbow trout. While I was in town, I stopped by the Forest Service Ranger Station and talked to Clark Hagler about not only this stream, but about a whole bunch of camping, fishing, hiking, and wildlife watching opportunities around here, and about some really interesting history, too. I'm talking about way, way back history. My next stop, Summer Lake. There's a wildlife area there that provides some of the best bird watching you'll ever experience. You can do it from your car, you can do it on foot and go hiking. It also offers great bird hunting in the fall and a couple of very unique fishing options you can take advantage of all year long. Martin St. Louis, the wildlife area manager, will be telling you more about all of this during our show. We needed a base camp for this adventure, and we found an incredible one directly across the road from the wildlife area entrance. It's called the Lodge at Summer Lake, and it provides clean and comfortable accommodations to include cabins that sit on a private bass pond. I'll tell you what, catching bass from your back porch is a great way to spend an evening. The food of the restaurant here is very, very good, and better still, it's offered at an ultra affordable price. Gary Brain, one of the co-owners of the Lodge at Summer Lake and the Flyway restaurant, will fill you in on all the details. In addition to our adventures in Oregon's Outback, we'll also tell you about free fishing days taking place this month throughout the Northwest. And of course, we've got our Sportsman's Warehouse Trivia Question of the Week for you, where you get a chance to win a $25 gift card. We give one away every week from Sportsman's Warehouse. But before we head any further into Lake County, we've got one heck of a bear hunting story to share with you on this week's edition of Sportsman Spotlight. Sportsman Spotlight is brought to you every week by Chad's Coastwide Sports Fishing out of Port Hardy, BC. The salmon forecast is great this year off of Vancouver Island, so is the exchange rate, and it's not too late to book a fishing trip this summer. Find out more at coastwidesportsfishing.com.
This is Sportsman Spotlight with Matt and Tom.
How many of you hunters out there have snuck within 15 yards of a black bear with a bow? Well, not many, I'm guessing. Travis Snyder did just that on a spring black bear hunt. Here's Stuck in the Rut member, Brother Tom, to tell you about his hunt.
First day of season, I was out and about, did a lot of glassing, just looking in those general areas, mainly at the snow line. I mean, where we like to look for the bears. And the first day, it was a pretty cool day. I ended up seeing 3 bears on the first day of season. Got my hopes up quite a bit. We really did not see a whole lot of activity besides that first day. It was just on and off. I spotted a bear across the drainage, and on the very next day, my brother Trav, he went with, and he brought his bow, and the bear came back out pretty close in the same opening I saw him the previous day. I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to get that with my bow. And I kind of doubted him a bit. Just like, you really think you're going to sneak up to that thing? Well, to my surprise, we got up to it, and I filmed it. I was the camera guy, and we got up 15 yards to it. When they get out of the den fresh, they just really don't move that much. They're just focused on eating, and they're really not aware of their surroundings as much as they should be. And so it makes it an easy archery stock, and he's done that before, too. we've got close to a lot of bears in that time. But, after a couple of weeks they're out of the den, they start moving a lot more, and it gets a lot harder to make an archery stock. It was pretty awesome to just witness that anyways, and he proved me wrong. And then
Check these guys out online at stuckintherut.com. They're the real deal. Hats off to you, Travis. Thanks for listening to Sportsman Spotlight with Matt Rice.
A quality and affordable fishing adventure is waiting for you off Vancouver Island with Chad's Coastwide Sports Fishing. Located in Port Hardy, British Columbia, you can drive or fly to your all-inclusive guided fishing vacation. Whether you're after big salmon, heart-fighting halibut, or a cooler full of red snapper and lingcod, you can catch it all here. Better yet, your lodging, meals, and fish processing are all taken care of. Want one more reason to go? The price. With the Canadian dollar exchange rate where it is right now, your U.S. dollar goes further. Space is limited, so go to coastwidesportsfishing.com to book your trip. That's coastwidesportsfishing.com for an incredible BC fishing adventure.
It doesn't matter what sort of adventure you're after. Whether it's big game deep in the backcountry, a day of fishing out on the water, or an overnight in the great outdoors. At Sportsman's Warehouse, we've got the gear in here for what you need out there. Gear up for your next adventure at one of the Sportsman's Warehouse stores or shop online. Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter.
Wetlands are some of the most important ecosystems on Earth, but our wetlands are quickly disappearing. Find out how you can help. Join Ducks Unlimited today.
When I first made the change, things are kind of rough.
You're back with Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. We're exploring the Oregon Outback. That's right, Southeast Oregon. And one place you've got to go is Paisley, Oregon. It's right off of Highway 31 between Lakeview and Summer Lake. About 200 folks live there, and it doesn't look like much from the outside, but I'll tell you what, there's a whole lot of history and outdoor recreation to be had here. With us here to tell us more about it is Clark Hagler. He works at the U.S. Forest Service Ranger Station in Paisley. Clark, good to talk to you again.
Well, thank you, John. Good to talk to you.
You know, Clark, for a little town, like I said, there's a lot of outdoor rec in this area. There's everything from fishing to camping to bird watching and more. But there's a lot of history here, too, that you told me about. Tell our listeners a little bit about the history that goes a long ways back right around Paisley.
Yes, a few years back, they found some coprolites, petrified human poop, and they got some DNA samples from it, and it's the oldest documentation of human habitation in North America. You know, a lot of people think we're in the middle of nowhere here in Paisley because we're over 100 miles from a traffic light in any direction, but the population in North America started right here.
That is amazing. And, jumping forward to, the frontier days, the early frontier days, John Fremont also was in that area as well.
Yes, 1843 was on his second expedition through the West, and he came through here and named a lot of, the landmarks that we have, Winter Ridge, Summer Lake, Aber Rim, and so on.
And one other thing we need to talk about here is you've got a little saloon in town, and that has got some real history as well. How long has that saloon been open? And tell our listeners about the bar that they'll find inside.
Yeah, the Pioneer Saloon has been in operation since 1883, and the back bar is just, a beautiful mahogany bar. It was built in Boston, I believe it was in 1907, shipped around Cape Horn to Portland, and then freighted in by mules and wagons from there.
Absolutely amazing. And if you get hungry, folks, the Homestead Cafe is right next door. They put out a real good plate, and some real nice people run that place as well. So we've told folks about Paisley, but let's turn our attention to fishing. The Showakan River flows through town, and just a few minutes up the road, you've got several Forest Service campgrounds where you can camp and fish this river for red band rainbow trout.
Yeah, you bet. The Showakan red band trout is a remnant of the Ice Age, back when Lake Aber and Summer Lake were connected. Here in Paisley, we're actually would have been 230 some feet below water level. Of course, now it's all dried out compared to that, and we have the river left. And the red band trout are remnants from the Ice Age, which I think is pretty incredible.
What are some of the more popular campgrounds there along the river?
Okay, yeah, going up the river, we have Marster Springs, Shewalkin Crossing, Jones Crossing, and Upper Jones Crossing. They're, excellent places to camp. A bunch of trees right on the river and very scenic, very beautiful.
I stopped at Marster Springs, and you're absolutely right. A great place to camp, great place to access the river, though I have to admit I was unable to find the springs that the campground's named after.
I haven't found them either.
Okay, I feel a little bit better about that. Now, in addition to those campgrounds and those fishing opportunities, you got some mountain lake fishing opportunities as well that you can hike to and drive to.
Yeah, we sure do. We have Withers Lake and Slide Lake going, and then in a few more weeks, as Rest of Forest opens up from the winter snowpack, you'll have Dead Horse and Campbell Lakes.
So are these all rainbow trout lakes or cutthroat, or what kind of fish are you going to find in these lakes?
Yeah, rainbow trout.
All right.
So, and they're stocked twice a year. So, yeah, should be some good fishing coming up this summer.
You're listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're talking to Clark Hagler with the U.S. Forest Service. He's stationed in Paisley, Oregon. And we're talking about some of the great fishing opportunities available around Paisley, some of the history here. And let's turn our attention to the camping now. A couple of those drive-to lakes, the hiking ones, obviously you're backpacking, but the drive-to lakes, do they have campgrounds at them?
Dead Horse and Campbell have campgrounds at them. And then, of course, Withers and Slide Lake are hike-ins. The Withers Lake is just, a small hike, a couple hundred yards. It's not bad at all.
All right. And another question for you here. Actually, not a question, but I just want you to tell our listeners about this. You have a Forest Service fire lookout that's available for rent. Basically, folks can go to the top of a mountain and stay in a lookout, and that's really cool.
Yeah, you bet. Bald Butte Lookout is available for rent, and fantastic views up there. You can see the Steens 100 miles to the east and see Mount Shasta to the southwest about 100 miles. So it's pretty incredible to think you're looking across a couple hundred miles of real estate.
Now, these fire lookouts, how are they laid out so people have an idea of what they're getting into? First off, do you drive to this one, or do you have to hike to it?
You can drive right up to Bald Butte Lookout. And they're, Aladdin structures. They were prefabricated so that they could be packed in by stock horses or mules and then put together on location. They're basically just a medium-sized room that has bunks in it and great views out all the windows where, when they were staffed, people were watching for the fires during the summers, and now they're a great recreation opportunity for people who want to go out and have great views. And what an incredible place to see the night skies, too. Oh,
didn't even think of that. You're absolutely right. That would be wonderful from a vantage point like that. Heading back to Paisley, you actually, a lot of folks are passing through Paisley, heading to the Summer Lake Wildlife Area for the bird watching there, but you steered me into some great bird watching right outside of town.
Yeah, just as you go out of town, heading south right on the curve is Lover's Lane. It goes east from the Highway 31 about 2 miles, and just a fantastic bird watching opportunity there. We have, the greater sandhills, red-winged blackbirds, all sorts of waterfowl. As it was an old marsh area that was drained over 100 years ago by the ranchers to grow their hay crops. But the fields are still flood irrigated every year, so they're very conducive for having the birds come in and feed and have some babies, and just great opportunities in for bird watching.
Oh, absolutely. And folks, I got to tell you, I have never been so close to sandhill cranes as I was driving the 2-mile stretch down Lover's Lane. And again, if you use your vehicle as a blind, usually those birds aren't going to spook much, and you can take some great photos right from inside your rig. And you're going to see, like you said, sandhill cranes, yellow-headed blackbirds, red-winged blackbirds, lots of waterfowl, all sorts of different species. And it's just a beautiful setting as well. So thanks for steering me into that. We've got to go. But before we do, if folks want to find out more about outdoor recreation near Paisley, what are the hours for the ranger station so they can come in and see you, Clark?
Yeah, our hours are Monday through Friday, 7:45 till 4:30, and a phone number we can be reached at is 541-943-3114.
All right, and is there a website we can send people to as well?
Yeah, they can just, Google Forest Service, and as you start checking that out, put in, the Fremont Wainema Forest, and that'll get you right there.
There you go. Paisley, Oregon. It doesn't look like much, but if you pass through, you're missing out. Check out all the outdoor recreation opportunities and check in with Clark Hagler at the Ranger Station. He will go ahead and square you away like he did me. Clark, thanks for sharing this with our listeners on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Well, thank you, John. Great talking to you again.
Leupold Gold Ring Optics are built to perform at the highest level, shot after shot, year after year. Our rifle scopes, binoculars, spotting scopes, rangefinders, and more always come through when you need them most. That's why our American-built products have a lifetime guarantee. Or as we like to say here at Leupold, they are guaranteed for a lifetime of performance, not a lifetime of replacement. Find out more about our top quality gear and our lifetime guarantee at Leupold.com. Leupold, America's optics authority.
The road is calling you to experience one of Oregon's 7 wonders, the Wallowas. So grab your hiking boots and camera and capture the beauty and grandeur of Northeast Oregon's Wallowa County. Experience nature like never before when you saddle up and ride into the Eagle-Capped Wilderness, hike the trails of the Wallowas, hear the wind rush through the bunch grass and view the wildlife of the Zumwalt Prairie, or ride the churning waters of the wild and scenic Wallowa, Snake, and Grand Ronde rivers. This summer, take the road that leads to wonders. It begins at WallowaCountyChamber.com.
Planning to head outdoors today? The National Shooting Sports Foundation reminds you to check the fire danger levels in your area. Whether target shooting, camping, or even parking a car with a hot exhaust, remember to take precautions. As we know, wildfires have many possible causes. Don't be one of them.
You're back with more of the great outdoors on Northwestern Outdoors Radio with John Cruz.
It's time for another Max Minute.
Fish on!
Brought to you every week by Max Lure Company. With us here again, Lance Mers with Max Lure Company. Lance, kokanee fishing is all the rage right now throughout the Northwest. What would you recommend people use to get some kokanee in the boat?
John, kokanee fishing is the craze, and the best thing to use is the Max Lure Cha-Cha 1.5-inch kokanee squidder rig.
Tell me more.
Well, it comes with a 0.8 smile blade, and that smile blade is a great tool to have is because you control it and it still spins at less than 1/4 mile an hour.
So you basically got the smile blade, and you've got basically the little squidder, which you usually associate with saltwater fishing, but you're telling me it works well for the kokanee.
It works exceptionally well for the kokanee. And, you know, squidders, or hoochies as they call them, are the craze, and they're coming back. And these 1.5-inch squidders that we have are actually the craze for kokanee fishing right now.
Single hook or 2 hooks?
It's got 2 hooks. Ours come with 2 red hook crawler harness that's tightly spaced, and they come with a size 4 hook. And the reason for that tight spacing is because kokanee have those really soft mouths. So that double hook, close hook set, it works really well for those kokanee and getting a better hookup.
So are you recommending fishing a worm or a crawler, or are we talking the standard shoe peg corn?
Well, you can fish with a night crawler, but it might change the presentation in the water for that. So to keep things consistent, go with that white shoe peg corn. It doesn't weigh a lot, and kokanee seem to really, really like them.
Well, there you go, folks. So wherever you're fishing for kokanee here in the Northwest, this is the lure for you. It's the Cha-Cha Squidder from Max Lure Company, and that concludes another Max Minute, brought to you by Max Lure Company, makers of the patented Smile Blade and the world-famous wedding ring spinner.
I'm Bob Loomis, and I fish for walleye. Sometimes when I'm out on the water, I feel like a destroyer captain hunting for targets with my electronics. I'm not hunting submarines, though. I'm hunting fish, and when I find that big one on the fish finder, I want to make sure she's going to bite. That's where the Smile Blade Slow Death Rig from Max Lure comes in. The Smile Blade spins and flashes at ultra-slow speeds, and the one-of-a-kind red hook keeps that bait moving in a way the fish can't resist. It's the Smile Blade Slow Death Rig, only from Max Lure.
A quality and affordable fishing adventure is waiting for you off Vancouver Island with Chad's Coast-Wide Sports Fishing. Located in Port Hardy, British Columbia, you can drive or fly to your all-inclusive guided fishing vacation. Whether you're after big salmon, heart-fighting halibut, or a cooler full of red snapper and lingcod, you can catch it all here. Better yet, your lodging, meals, and fish processing are all taken care of. Want one more reason to go? The price. With the Canadian dollar exchange rate where it is right now, your U.S. dollar goes further. Space is limited, so go to coastwidesportsfishing.com to book your trip. That's coastwidesportsfishing.com for an incredible BC fishing adventure.
Want to earn a serious reward? You can, and all you need is a fishing rod. There's money to be made catching northern pike minnow. There's too many of them in the Columbia and Snake Rivers, and we'll pay you cash to catch them. Pike minnow eat our salmon and steelhead, and that's no good. The season starts May 1st, runs through September, and the more fish you catch, the more you earn. How much money can you make from this program? Well, last year, one angler earned a cool $100,000. Find out more at pikeminnow.org. That's pikeminnow.org. Go ahead, collect your reward.
You're back with Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. We're broadcasting from the Oregon Outback, and we have got an incredible place you've got to visit. It's called the Summer Lake Wildlife Area. It's located, well, in Lake County, and with us here to tell us more about it is Martin St. Louis, the Wildlife Area Manager. Marty, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much, John.
Marty, let's start off with some basic facts about this wonderful wetland habitat in the middle of the desert.
Okay. The Summer Lake Wildlife Area, it's about 19,000 acres in size. It's predominantly a wetland complex, although there are agricultural lands surrounding it and upland areas that support a wide variety of birds primarily. There's a few big game species, mule deer come to mind, and occasionally a pronghorn antelope is out here as well. But it's a state wildlife area, been in existence since 1945.
Well, it's really popular for three things: bird watching, bird hunting, and fishing as well. We'll get through all that, but I've got to tell you, when I visited there, I was just amazed at the abundance of bird life, especially the waterfowl. I lost track of how many mallards, Canada geese, gadwalls, and my favorite, cinnamon teal, that I saw there.
Yes, this is a very major production area in this part of Oregon, and owing to the abundance of wetlands that we have here, our wetlands are sustained year in and year out by springs, fairly high volume springs that flow year round and provide these wetland habitats that attracts that variety of waterfowl and other water-related birds and kind of wetland obligate bird species that make Summer Lake a popular destination for wildlife viewers and photographers.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when I was there, I saw pelicans, I saw egrets, sandhill cranes, and just a huge variety of shorebirds, both big and small. What are some of the more unique shorebirds that you have there at the wildlife area?
Well, there are 9 species of shorebirds that breed on the wildlife area. As far as some of them that really stand out, the American avocet, blackneck stilt, and the long-billed curlew come to mind. There's also a somewhat unique one, the snowy plover also breeds here on the wildlife area. But all in all, there's probably over the years been at least 30 species, different species of shorebirds that have been recorded at Summer Lake.
You know, one thing that I really love about the wildlife area that you work at is the fact you can explore it and get some magnificent bird viewing in on the motor route that you have, and there's also plenty of hiking trails too. Why don't you tell our listeners about both of those opportunities?
Yes, we are definitely very user-friendly here at Summer Lake. We've got 4 campgrounds on the wildlife area, and with our management programs for managing the wetlands, that entails some dikes and levees to help us regulate water. Those then become trails for hiking on during this time of the year, during the breeding season and during the hunting season. We have some of those dikes are closed to motor vehicles, so it's a walking show only, or mountain bikes or anything along those lines, non-motorized. But it's a very large network out there that would allow people to explore the kind of the depths of the wetlands out there.
And the motor route, what is that, about 10 miles that I covered altogether?
It's closer to 8.5 miles. It's a big loop that you'd start from the wildlife area, start from the wildlife area headquarters. It goes through the interior. You pass by lots of different habitat types, and it concludes 1.3 miles north of us at the town of Summer Lake, where it's then going through some of the upland habitats and some of the agricultural areas that we plant various small grains and trees and shrubs for wildlife use.
You're listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're talking to Martin St. Louis, the wildlife manager of Summer Lake Wildlife Area in the Oregon Outback. Now, we've talked about what you have there. We've talked about the bird watching. Let's turn our attention to fishing and hunting, both popular pursuits there. When it comes to fishing, people are going to two places, the Anna River and Anna Reservoir. Why are folks going there?
Well, they are very, very stable or consistent in their condition. There are high-volume springs that are underneath Anna Reservoir, the dam there. It's not your typical storage reservoir that's capturing snow melt or runoff from creeks. It is a dam there that kind of retards the water and creates the reservoir with the river starting immediately below the dam. The water is flowing at a constant temperature of about 59 degrees year-round on that. It never freezes in the wintertime. And it's a site of hatchery-reared rainbow trout and then a unique fish, a hybrid bass, a striped bass, white bass hybrid that's also in the reservoir.
And those bass, I understand, can get up to 20 pounds or so. Wasn't a 20-pounder caught last winter?
Yes, they quite typically get that large in size. They were stocked there in Anna Reservoir to help control another non-desirable rough fish called a tui chub that competes with the trout that are released there too. And so the bass are very voracious, and they work the tui chub population, and as a consequence can get very large in size.
Well, folks, I got to tell you, having tried my hand at Anna Reservoir and the Anna River, you can get the trout fairly easily out of Anna Reservoir, but those hybrid bass, they are not easy to catch. The locals will tell you chicken gizzards fished off the bottom is one way where you might get them, and fishing at night and in the winter is usually your best bet for those. As for the Anna River, it is a spring-fed river, like you said, Marty, and not really conducive to gear because it's kind of weedy, but would be very good for fishing with bait, and also fishing as a fly angler, I think would be perfect for that river.
Yes, it's very popular with fly fishermen. They report fairly good catch rates in it, in at least in the upper stretch of it, the upper 3 or 4 miles of it. As it starts flattening out, winding its way through the wildlife area, it becomes slower, a little bit warmer, just from the environmental conditions there, and the fishing's not as good down there, but up higher in the higher reaches it can be quite good.
Let's turn our attention now to hunting, because when it comes to fall, you've got droves of bird hunters coming there for good reason. There's a lot of ducks and there's a lot of geese to be found there.
Yes, we're a major staging area during fall migration, and that brings a lot of hunters here taking advantage of fairly immense waterfowl populations, mainly ducks and geese here, to the magnitude of 75 to 100,000 waterfowl staging at one time. It's fairly early in the fall because of the higher elevation that we're at. We're close to 4,200 feet in elevation, so when the winter storms and freezes start coming, a lot of those waterfowl will just move on, continue south in their migration to reach their wintering destinations. In the dead of winter, we still hang on to a small population of waterfowl. The Canada geese are very hardy, and they will stay here, as well as about a population of 5,000 to 7,000 ducks will be able to stay on the wildlife area, taking advantage of the warmer water that we have. It allows some places to remain open. We never freeze up entirely, but the conditions make it a little tougher on the birds that way.
Well, there you go, folks. All sorts of reasons to visit the Summer Lake Wildlife Area. Whether you're a bird watcher, whether you're an angler, or whether you're a hunter, you're going to find something here, and it's in a beautiful setting on top of everything else. Do remember, if you come visit here, you do need to have a Wildlife Area Access Pass. You can go ahead and buy that from your licensed dealers, but get on out here, enjoy everything that's offered, and drop by and say hi to Marty, too. Marty, thanks for telling us all about this on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Oh, you bet, John, anytime. Thank you.
You demand quality performance from your binoculars, whether you use them in the field, on the water, or at a stadium. But you don't want to spend a fortune. That's where the BX Mackenzie binoculars from Leupold come in. These armored, waterproof binoculars are both comfortable and dependable. Look for your Mackenzie binoculars at quality sporting goods retailers near you, to include your Cabela's, Sportsman's Warehouse, or Northwest Bi-Mart stores. BX Mackenzie, bringing your world into sharper focus, only from Leupold.
Welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. We continue to broadcast from the Oregon Outback. That's right, Southeast Oregon. And we've been in the Paisley, Summer Lake area. If you're looking for a place to stay, I've got to send you to the Lodge at Summer Lake. With us here to tell us more about it is Gary Brain, one of the co-owners. Gary, great to talk to you again.
Good to see you again, too.
Gary, why don't you give our listeners the brief elevator speech about what you have to offer at the Lodge at Summer Lake?
Well, first off, one of our great claims to fame is we're 100 miles from anybody, so if you want solitude, come out here. If you want to listen to coyotes, come out here. If you want to see stargazing, come out here. We have absolutely no light pollution, and the sounds of silence are great at night, except when the coyotes start to tune up. And the other thing we have are, of course, 300 different species of birds, the great horned owl included. You'll hear that critter at night also. And the other real great attraction for us is the Summer Lake Wildlife area that is just right across the street from our lodge. You can just step out the motel or one of our cabins and walk across and be into 18,000 acres of bliss.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And folks, the lodge here at Summer Lake, basically, you've got several cabins that are on a private pond that we're going to talk about in just a second. You've got several motel rooms, all of them clean and comfortable. You've got the Flyaway restaurant, and you got a gift shop as well. And again, right across the road from the Summer Lake Wildlife area. Now, Gary, I love that pond you have on the property, and the fact that it's stocked with bass and bluegill. Probably caught a dozen bass right off my back deck while I was staying there with you. And it being on private property, you don't even need a fishing license, do you?
That's right. That's another good attraction, especially for kids. We have a few poles that we keep on hand with, just real simple rigging on them for the little kids, and they can have just a blast catching bluegill and also the bass. You mentioned you caught a bunch of bass here just this last weekend. The water's warming up. We had two guys go out there, and they were serious bass fishing. They caught about 10 apiece. The biggest one was 17 and a half inches. So that's a good-sized bass for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And, most of them are small, but again, it's a lot of fun. Great way to pass the time. And like you said, Gary, there's tons of wildlife at the wildlife area, but there's quite a bit to see at this pond, too. I mean, there's Caspian terns that are working the pond and going fishing. You've got doves that are cooing in the trees. You've got ducks that are swimming around. And like you said, at night, you've got a whole bunch of hooting owls that hang out in those trees by the pond, too.
That's right. The other good attraction, we also have a pair of ospreys that come over. They haven't shown up yet, but usually they start showing up 1st of June, and you'll see those ospreys working the pond too, and that's a sight to behold.
Oh, absolutely. I love it when an osprey goes in the water and comes up with a fish. That is cool. Folks, you're listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're talking to Gary Brain about the Lodge at Summer Lake. Wonderful place to be. The accommodations, like I said before, they're all clean and comfortable, but the Ponderosa cabin I stayed in, where I was literally catching bass from my back deck, that was fabulous. Tell our listeners more about this great cabin.
It's one of our newest cabins. It's a 2-bedroom cabin. The other cabins are just 1 bedroom. It has just a fantastic view. We faced it broadside to our pond, and it, of course, faces the pond. And then if you look out, you can look up 3,000 foot to Winter Rim on top. Black bear and deer on the hillside. Good idea to bring binoculars. Like I say, you'll just be amazed at what you can see as far as outdoor life out there. The cabin itself, it has a small kitchen. It doesn't have an oven, but it does have a stovetop and refrigerator and coffee pot and microwave and things like that. Air conditioned. 1 bedroom has a queen in it. The other bedroom has bunk beds in it. And if you really want to crowd some people in there, it'll sleep up to 6 because there's a futon couch.
Well, definitely a great home away from home. And I got to ask you, Gary, you are basically the only accommodation while in that area. do most people that stay with you, are they coming to you as a destination? Are they basically there because they're going to go to Summer Lake Wildlife Area for bird watching or bird hunting or fishing, or are they passing through? What's the majority of your clientele?
It used to be just a pass-through place. We've done a lot of upgrades since we bought it 20 years ago and advertised a lot for the birding people. It was just a hunting lodge. Originally it opened in October and shut down in January, and the owners went to Reno and worked down there. So it was just a part-time lodge and restaurant. When we bought it, it was pretty run down.
Well, it's not anymore. You've done a fantastic job. I mean, again, I can't say enough good things about the place. So good to know that you've turned it in more of a destination place, and as it should be. One other thing we need to talk about is your restaurant, the Flyway Restaurant. Folks, you'll love this place. If you get a window seat, there's actually binoculars in the windows, so you can go ahead and look out towards a lake that's just south of the restaurant and check out the wildlife there while you're eating. But you've got some great food that you cook up, and the price point is just unbelievable. I mean, being the only game in town, you would think you would charge quite a bit, but your food is very affordable and very good.
Well, what we like to do is keep it affordable. You know, it's all homemade stuff. It's all cooking from scratch. That's why we can keep the prices down. We bring in all of our meats, and I hand cut all of our meats. We have a great provisioner over in Klamath Falls, Boyd's Wholesaler. They just do a fantastic job of bringing us weekly produce and meats. Without delivery out here, we'd be spending, probably a quarter of our life on the road going to Bend or Klamath Falls to pick up product.
Right.
Our fish is great. I lived on the coast for several years, so I can wall up some real good whitefish or salmon or prawns or oysters, whatever your heart desires. We have a Friday night fish special, and typically it's salmon and whitefish and prawns. When we can get fresh oysters, we'll bring in oysters and have oyster feeds also.
Oh, well, I'll tell you what, the fish and chips I had was great. But, folks, let me tell you about a typical meal here. So the first night I was there, I ordered a 12-ounce sirloin steak. And so first off, I got homemade bread from scratch that was warm and had butter on it. It was just absolutely tasty. Then I got my salad, and that was great as well. And then I got the 12-ounce sirloin steak, and I got some mixed veggies, and I got a baked potato, had a glass of wine with it, and the whole shebang cost less than $25, 20% tip included. I mean, you just can't beat that price, and it was a wonderful meal, and you can have it, too, at the Flyway Restaurant. We are starting to run out of time, Gary, but before we go, let's give folks a website that they can go to so they can go ahead and book a stay at the Lodge at Summer Lake.
All righty. We also have a Facebook page, so you can just query the Lodge at Summer Lake on Facebook, and we usually try and keep that somewhat up to date, but I'm not a techie guy, so stuff may or may not get posted in a timely manner on that. But if you just go to the web and query the Lodge at SummerLake.com, we'll come right up.
Absolutely. Again, the website is lodge@summerlake.com, lodge@summerlake.com. Make it a point to visit the Oregon Outback. Make it a point to go visit the Summer Lake Wildlife Refuge. And when you do, stay at the Lodge at Summer Lake and eat at the Flyway Restaurant. Gary, thanks for sharing this with our listeners on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Thank you.
The road is calling you to experience one of Oregon's 7 wonders, the Wallowas. So grab your family and spend some time exploring Northeast Oregon's Wallowa County. Visit the state park at the head of glacier-carved Wallowa Lake. Travel the Hells Canyon Scenic Byway. Feel the pioneer spirit, Nez Perce history, and see our Western arts and bronzes. Ascend to the top of Mount Howard on the tram and you'll see why Wallowa County is one of Oregon's most scenic and adventurous vacation wonders. This summer, take the road that leads to wonders. It begins at WallowaCountyChamber.com.
Want to earn a serious reward? You can, and all you need is a fishing rod. There's money to be made catching northern pike minnow. There's too many of them in the Columbia and Snake Rivers, and we'll pay you cash to catch them. Pike minnow eat our salmon and steelhead, and that's no good. The season starts May 1st, runs through September, and the more fish you catch, the more you earn. How much money can you make from this program? Well, last year, one angler earned a cool $100,000. Find out more at pikeminnow.org. That's pikeminnow.org. Go ahead, collect your reward.
A quality and affordable fishing adventure is waiting for you off Vancouver Island with Chad's Coast-Wide Sports Fishing. Located in Port Hardy, British Columbia, you can drive or fly to your all-inclusive guided fishing vacation. Whether you're after big salmon, heart-fighting halibut, or a cooler full of red snapper and lingcod, you can catch it all here. Better yet, your lodging, meals, and fish processing are all taken care of. Want one more reason to go? The price. With the Canadian dollar exchange rate where it is right now, your U.S. dollar goes further. Space is limited, so go to coastwidesportsfishing.com to book your trip. That's coastwidesportsfishing.com for an incredible BC fishing adventure.
Backcountry hunters and anglers, the men and women working hard to keep public lands in public hands. Check us out at backcountryhunters.org.
It doesn't matter what sort of adventure you're after. Whether it's big game deep in the backcountry, a day of fishing out in the water, or an overnight in the great outdoors. At Sportsman's Warehouse, we've got the gear in here for what you need out there. Gear up for your next adventure at one of the Sportsman's Warehouse stores or shop online. Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter.
One more time this week for Northwestern Outdoors Radio with John Cruz.
We've got a reminder for you about a really unique opportunity taking place June 7th. That's a Tuesday from 8 to 10 a.m. at the Port Orford Marina. That's along the southern Oregon coast. And if you go there, you can meet up with Dan Sawyer. He's going to take you on a seaweed walk. That's right. He's going to show you what kind of weeds and saltwater plants are edible and how you can go about collecting them and preparing them and really enjoy all the bounty that the sea has to offer. The cost is whatever you care to donate for this 2-hour walk. Be sure to bring scissors or a knife, a bucket, and some good boots, and get ready to learn. I think this is going to be really interesting. Again, that's Tuesday, June 7th from 8 to 10 a.m. at the Port Orford Marina. It's a seaweed walk with Dan Sawyer. Other things going on starting right now. Free fishing weekends across the Northwest. Free fishing weekend in Oregon is taking place today and tomorrow, Sunday the 5th. In fact, there's free fishing events on the 4th geared towards kids at lakes all over the state. Just go to the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife website for details about that. In Washington, free fishing weekend is June 11th and 12th. In Idaho, it's not a weekend, it's just one day, and that is Saturday, June 11th. But there's lots of kid-friendly events around the state in Idaho. And Father's Day weekend, June 18th and 19th, is the free fishing weekend in Montana. The thing I love about these free fishing weekends, two things actually. Number one, it's a great opportunity to take somebody out fishing who doesn't necessarily know a lot about it or doesn't buy a license every year. Get them hooked on the sport. Or another thing you can do is go fish out of state. I love heading to Oregon or Idaho or Montana on the free fishing weekend because you avoid those non-residence license fees and get in some fishing in a unique location you may have never fished before. Again, free fishing weekends, take advantage of them. Now, you're going to need some gear when you go out on your free fishing weekend, and the place to get it is at Sportsman's Warehouse. There's over 60 Sportsman's Warehouse stores around the country, most of them right here in the West. So there's one near you. They have great selection, knowledgeable staff. Sportsman's Warehouse is the place to go to get geared up for your free fishing weekend or any other weekend on the water. And now, let's get to your trivia question of the week. This species of native trout isn't a trout at all. It's found throughout the Northwest. It likes cool, clear water and especially streams. It's relatively rare and is a protected species in several states. We are not talking about brook trout here. Nope, we've got another species in mind that is very, very closely related to the Dolly Varden. What species is this native trout that's actually a char? If you think you know, go to our Facebook page at Northwestern Outdoors Radio, like the page and find the post, give us your guess there. You can also go to our website at northwesternoutdoors.com. Just go to the Contact Us page and let us know what kind of native trout are we talking about that's actually a char. The Facebook page again, Northwestern Outdoors Radio, and the website is northwesternoutdoors.com. While you're on the web, be sure to tune in to WRVO Radio. Simply go to RenoViolaOutdoors.com. When you get there, you'll find an internet radio station dedicated to outdoors programming 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They've got a brand new show, by the way, and it's one that I'm proud to say we are launching across 5 states and 22 stations this weekend. It's America Outdoors Radio. Several of you listening to this show are going to hear it this weekend as well. But if you don't have it yet, you can catch it there at RenoViolaOutdoors.com, or better still, contact your local station and say you want to hear America Outdoors Radio and have a 2-hour block of outdoors programming every weekend. That's all for this week. June is here, school's letting out, and it's time for some family summer fun and exploration. One place to enjoy it is definitely in the outback of Oregon. So until next time, take care, God bless, and make it a point to spend some time outdoors.